We are entering a new historical era, one that has no precedent in the history of human civilization. According to academic estimates, human civilization as we know it is about 6,500 years old. Some argue it's only a few hundred years, but regardless of how you count, what we are facing now is a shift that changes the very nature of labor and the meaning of life itself. In the coming decades, artificial intelligence, digital systems, and autonomous robots will take over most of the productive and intellectual work. Machines will be maintaining and even creating other machines. This transformation won't happen overnight. There will still be jobs, inertia, and leftover roles from the old world, perhaps for a generation or two. But the direction is clear, and it is irreversible. We are approaching a time when labor will no longer be a universal value. Imagine a world where physical and mental labor no longer define human worth. What has shaped societies for millennia is now fading. It's like gold suddenly losing all its value. Or as the Bible says, if salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? This transition requires more than just technical adaptation. It demands deep philosophical reflection, because if we enter this new reality unprepared, spiritually, morally, and mentally, the future may feel unbearable. The question we're raising here isn't abstract. It's real, it's urgent, and it concerns every one of us. Our lives, our children, and the world they'll inherit. Before we start imagining what can be built, we need to ask, what cannot be changed? First, we cannot build a conflict-free society. Scientific experiments show that when living beings are stripped of all struggle, their communities collapse. Studies with mice have revealed that when given unlimited food, comfort, and sex, without the need to fight for any of it, the population didn't thrive. It died. Similar outcomes appear in studies with primates. The absence of tension leads to the collapse of life. Second, all sacred texts across traditions tell us the same truth. Conflict, tension, and the struggle between opposites are essential for growth. A book becomes sacred not because someone believes in it, but because its wisdom survives centuries. Take the book of Revelation, Apocalypse. It's one of the most feared, quoted, and misunderstood texts in human history, precisely because it remains relevant. Utopia is a dangerous illusion. Development always comes through contrast, through challenge, through friction, even in peace, even within our own minds. So, if we are serious about creating a new world, we must begin not with fantasy, but with an honest understanding of our limitations as a species. Only from that foundation can we build a future with meaning, with freedom, and with life. And then there's a third reason. The conflict is not just historical, it's not just structural, it's biological. Conflict is encoded in our genome. It's written into the operating system of human nature and into the very structure of society that grew out of it. Without inner conflict, no learning. No development, no life. Think about it. The moment we are born, contradiction begins. Gender tension, the eternal dance and struggle between male and female. Myth and history intertwine here. Troy fell because of love, betrayal, and desire. That war reshaped politics, spirituality, and culture. And it all started with a sexual conflict. The same core tension appears in sacred texts, whether literal or symbolic, it's always there. Then there's the fight for survival, for food, for energy. In modern terms, money. But deeper than that, it's always about access to life force. Even today in traditional Japanese companies, salaries are tied to the cost of rice. Why? Because food remains the primal currency of survival. And here's the paradox. The sun gives its energy freely to all, but we, humans, can't absorb it directly. Instead, to survive, we must kill. We consume other living beings and convert their bodies into energy, with barely 10% efficiency. Imagine if we had chlorophyll. If we were green-skinned, photosynthetic beings, we could stand in the sunlight and simply breathe. no blood, no hunger, no pain. But that's not the world we were given, or the world we evolved into. Whether you believe in divine design or evolutionary law, the result is the same. We were born to struggle. That struggle is what makes us human. Let's be real. If there was no conflict built into us, we wouldn't need to work. We wouldn't need social roles, rules, expectations, no pressure, no survival, no society. But someone, or something, put that conflict there. Whether you call it God, evolution, or design, the result is the same. We were made to struggle. That tension runs deep, even in the way we eat. Just look at the war between vegans and meat eaters. Everyone convinced they're right. Everyone ready to argue, but at the core, it's the same story. To live, we have to consume. We eat plants, we eat animals, we convert life into fuel, because that's how the system works. If it didn't work that way, there wouldn't even be a conversation. There'd be no hunger, no need. But we're not made of chlorophyll. We can't just stand in the sun and photosynthesize, so we fight over food, over meaning, over who gets what, and that's just the beginning. Because conflict shows up in even subtler ways. Envy, resentment. You see someone richer, more powerful, living large. Maybe they didn't earn it. Maybe they don't deserve it. But they've got it. And that's not a glitch. That's part of the design. It keeps the engine running. The world isn't broken. It's built this way. Progress doesn't happen by accident. It's born out of struggle, out of pressure, out of the clash between ideas. Whether it's people, companies, or nations, when you're forced to compete, you're forced to evolve. No competition, no progress. Just look at the smartphone industry. Apple versus Samsung, two giants in a constant fight for billions of users. And what happens? Every year, better tech, sharper displays, smarter chips, more powerful features. Why? Because if one slows down, the other takes the lead. Competition doesn't destroy them. It pushes both to rise. Now, imagine a world with no competition, no pressure, no rivals, just one option. That was the Soviet Union, a closed system. No outside pressure, no need to improve, and it showed. Empty shelves, same-looking products. Quality didn't matter, because you had no choice. Over time, the whole country became irrelevant in the global market. So let's be clear, competition isn't the enemy. It's a challenge. It makes us better, not out of fear, but out of necessity. If we want to grow, we need pressure. We need someone to chase. Sometimes, we even need someone who scares us a little. Because without pressure, water doesn't turn into steam, and people don't become strong. War. One of the darkest sides of human nature. It brings destruction, suffering, and death. But history shows that in the midst of the greatest conflicts, humanity often makes its biggest leaps forward. Not through peace, but through pressure. The First World War was a nightmare, but it became a brutal laboratory for innovation. Automatic weapons, tanks, radio communication, airplanes in combat, blood transfusions, field surgery, technologies that once seemed impossible became urgent. And after the Second World War, the world changed forever. From the ashes of global conflict, we saw the birth of radar, jet engines, nuclear energy, antibiotics, early computers, rocket science, even everyday things we take for granted, like duct tape, the microwave oven, and plastic, were invented or mass-produced during or after the war. This is the paradox. Out of hell came tools that built the future. Progress isn't always born in harmony. Sometimes it's forged in crisis, and the question we're left with is this: can humanity grow without destruction? Or do we always have to reach the edge before we finally take the next step? So, what can we do? If conflict is part of the system, if it's hard-coded into human nature and into the biological fabric of this planet, how do we move forward? In a perfect world, there would be no contradictions. But that's not our world. We live in a dense, material, physical reality, and here, conflict is part of the design. We can't erase it, but we can choose how to respond to it. We can build a path of sustainable, progressive development in spirit, in technology, in consciousness, in justice. Will we reach perfection? No, There will always be crime, there will always be people who choose destruction, and not all of them are insane. Some are fully rational, intelligent, calculating, people who consciously choose the dark path. History proves this, again and again. But here's something important. The higher the level of consciousness, the less power conflict has over you. Conflict doesn't disappear, but it no longer needs to erupt as violence, aggression, or chaos. A conscious human can transform that inner tension into growth, into choice, into creativity. That's our task, to raise awareness, to build systems that value wisdom, patience, responsibility, and clarity. We can't eliminate all darkness, but we can stop feeding it. And most of all, we can refuse to surrender. Conflict is part of life, but so is meaning, so is growth, so is the choice, to rise instead of fall,